My dad is the most feared mafia boss in New York. My mom is an elite heiress from one of the city's oldest billionaire families. And then there's Julian, my genius older brother who used to spoil me to death. When I was 5, my dad's enemies kidnapped me. They wanted to trade my life for his. To save him, I found a chance to escape. But I ended up falling off a cliff, losing all my memories, and growing up as an unadoptable orphan in a foster home. The kidnapper, wanting to torture my dad, lied and told him he'd thrown me to the sharks. From that day on, my name, Serafina King, became a forbidden word in New York. 20 years later, my boyfriend's side chick ran me over with her car, sending me straight to the ER. Standing by my hospital bed, she threw a black credit card at my face. My adoptive dad is a mafia legend. My adoptive mom is a New York socialite. My adoptive brother is a world-class scientist. Who do you think you are to compete with me? And my boyfriend, the guy who swore he'd love me forever, stood there with cold, indifferent eyes. Mia, you can't give me anything. Just let me go, okay? I clutched the card and whispered, okay, glad you know your place. Otherwise, if my family stepped in, you wouldn't just be dealing with 3 broken ribs. Chloe stood there in a custom Chanel tweed suit, a matching handbag dangling from her arm, and diamond-encrusted heels. She looked every bit the spoiled, pampered princess she was. She tilted her chin up, her voice dripping with arrogance. Leave New York within 3 days. I don't want to live in the same city as my boyfriend's pathetic ex. It ruins my mood. I kept my eyes down. She was just as ruthless and unreasonable as the rumors said. I had 3 broken ribs. I couldn't even leave the hospital in 3 days, and she wanted me out of the city. I looked at Ethan, who was standing nearby, hoping he would tell this brainless brat to give me some time. But when Chloe saw me looking at him, she flew into a jealous rage. She swung her expensive Chanel bag and slammed it right into my face. You bitch! You took my money and you're still drooling over my man. Blood started seeping through my head bandages. I clutched my forehead, my face turning pale from the agonizing pain. Chloe wasn't done. A cruel smirk played on her lips as she walked toward me on her stilettos. Ethan instinctively reached out to stop her, but after a moment of hesitation, his hand dropped back to his side. Chloe, don't take it too far. The hospital has too many eyes. It's bad for your reputation. Reputation? Who cares? Chloe grabbed a fistful of my hair, pulling so hard I felt like my scalp was ripping off. I am Chloe King. No one in New York dares to cross me. Even if my reputation is trash, people will still beg to be my dogs. With that, she slapped me hard across the face. Just when I thought I was going to die right there in that bed, a tall, incredibly handsome man appeared at the door. Chloe! Chloe froze. She immediately let go of my hair, her vicious snarl instantly turning into a sweet, innocent smile. She ran over and wrapped her arms around his. Julian! What are you doing here? Julian affectionately ruffled Chloe's hair. Are you bullying people again? He sighed, looking helpless. When are you going to grow up? The arrogant brat was gone, replaced by a sweet, pouty little girl. I don't want to grow up. With you, mom and dad protecting me, I want to be your little princess forever. The moment I heard Chloe call him Julian, my heart stopped. I struggled to turn my head to look at him, but Chloe's rough handling had aggravated my broken ribs. The pain was so intense I started blacking out, cold sweat dripping down my back. I couldn't even make a sound. If it weren't for the burning desire to reunite with my brother, I would have passed out right then. But my brother, whom I hadn't seen in 20 years, was standing just feet away. Yet, I couldn't reach him. I had to watch him shower Chloe with all the warmth, gentleness, and protection in the world. He wasn't Chloe's brother. He was mine. He was 5 years older than me. He used to spoil me rotten, giving me all the best food and toys. When we were kids, he loved to ruffle my hair too. He would smile gently and say, "You will always be happy, Serafina. I'll be your knight forever." But now, all that tenderness belonged to someone else. A wave of bitter resentment washed over me. Why did they adopt Chloe? Why did they give all the love that belonged to me to another girl? Was that fair to me? I struggled on the bed, letting out muffled whimpers, desperately trying to get his attention. And I did. Through my blurry vision, I saw him slowly walk over to my bed. He stopped right beside me. "Miss, I apologize on Chloe's behalf. She's young and spoiled by our family, so she can be reckless. But she doesn't mean any real harm." He pulled a black card from his pocket and placed it on my pillow. "There's $2 million in here. I hope this covers your trouble." Looking at Julian, his face expressionless, his voice cold and detached, my heart shattered alongside my body. "Julian, I already gave her $200,000. Why give her more? A charity case like her isn't worth that much if she sold her soul." "Chloe," Julian scolded her, but his voice was filled with indulgence, completely different from the icy tone he used with me. Chloe stuck her tongue out playfully and sneered at me. "Stop playing dead. I barely touched you. At most, you have a couple of scratches." Julian looked at my pale face and the cold sweat on my forehead. He seemed to realize something was off. Maybe I wasn't faking it. But so what? To him, I was just a stranger. And Julian King never cared about the lives of strangers. He turned and took Chloe's hand. "Let's go. Today is Serafina's Memorial Day. We need to visit the cemetery." Chloe gasped, hitting her forehead. "Oh my God, I almost forgot. Serafina won't be mad at me in heaven, right?" "I'm sure she won't. You're sweet and kind. Besides, she was the one who sent you to us. Why would she be mad?" Julian smiled warmly, pinching her cheek. "Exactly. You're the little princess Serafina sent us. 18 years ago today, we went to her grave and found you, a 3-year-old, sleeping right by her tombstone. The moment we saw you, we thought Serafina had come back to us. Especially your eyes. They look just like hers." Julian's eyes went distant, as if he were looking through Chloe at the little sister he missed so desperately. After a long moment, he pulled himself back and sighed. "Let's go." Just a second before Julian turned to leave, I forced myself through the agonizing pain and grabbed his sleeve. "Julian, what did you call me?" Julian froze. His eyes locked onto my face. Then, his pupils shrunk. "Your eyes." Suddenly, his gaze turned ice cold, and he violently shook my hand off. "Your eyes do look like Chloe's, and they look like my late sister Serafina's. But not everyone with those eyes is allowed to call me Julian." He pushed my hand away so hard that my wounds ripped. I shook violently from the pain, helplessly watching him lead Chloe out of the room without looking back. The massive room fell dead silent, leaving only me and Ethan. Ethan looked down at me as I writhed in pain, condescendingly reaching out to press the call button. "People move up, Mia. Don't blame me for being heartless. But that baby in your womb, you really can't keep it." My heart stopped. I looked at Ethan in absolute disbelief. I thought he didn't know I was pregnant. I thought that was why he let Chloe run me over. Ethan looked down, slowly adjusting his cuffs, avoiding my eyes. I found the ultrasound report in your drawer weeks ago. You wanted to surprise me, didn't you? If it weren't for Chloe, maybe I would have been happy. But a man has to prioritize his career. Chloe can give me everything I've ever dreamed of. You and that unborn kid can't give me anything. It felt like my chest was being ripped open. A suffocating pain engulfed me. The sweet, loving boy from college. When did he become this monster? Or maybe he was always this selfish and cold. I was just too blind to see it. Vaguely, I heard a nurse's furious voice. The patient has broken ribs and is going through a miscarriage. Any movement causes agonizing pain. Are you her family? Do you even know how to look after her? I have nothing to do with her. I just saw the accident and brought her in out of pity. I'm leaving now. My heart was sliced open again. 7 years of love, and to him, I was just a stranger he helped out of pity. Tears fell silently. He abandoned me and our child for Chloe to climb the social ladder, right? Fine. I'd wait for him to reach the top. And when he's at his proudest, I will stand before him. I'll show him that the one standing at the very top, the one who can crush him and Chloe like bugs, is the orphan they threw away and humiliated. To avoid any more trouble from Chloe, I used the money she and Julian gave me to hire 2 private nurses. On the 3rd night, I booked a private medical transport and had myself transferred to a top private hospital in Boston. It took 6 months for my body to fully recover. A week ago, I finally contacted my dad. Even though he was a feared Mafia boss, reaching him wasn't hard. He had a private number known only to the 4 of us in our family. When I was a kid, he made me memorize it. He knew he had too many enemies and feared we might get separated. He told me that as long as we were alive, we could always reach him through this number. Stepping out of the JFK airport back in New York, the warm sunlight hit my face. I finally felt alive again. My dad's men were on their way to pick me up. I was no longer a helpless orphan. I was going to take back everything Chloe took from me, piece by piece, and become the one person in New York no one dared to touch. Mia, why are you back in New York? A familiar, annoying voice broke my thoughts. It was Ethan, his face twisted with annoyance. We are over. Can you stop stalking me? Without warning, Ethan shoved me. Get out of here before Chloe sees you. She'll get jealous and start a fight. What is going on here? A sharp female voice shrieked. It was Chloe. She marched over and shoved me hard, sending me sprawling to the ground. You cheap whore! Trying to steal my man again? Chloe stopped mid-insult, squinting at my face. Then she let out a loud sneer. Oh, it's you. You took my money and you dare to come back to New York to harass my boyfriend? Do you think I'm soft? She raised her hand to slap me, but paused, looking at the crowd gathering around us. She immediately put on her elegant heiress mask. A wicked grin spread across her face. Throw her into my van. I want to catch up with my old friend. Her 2 burly bodyguards immediately stepped forward, grabbing my arms to drag me toward her black Mercedes van. But right before they could force me inside,
a deafening roar of engines tore through the airport. 1, 2, 10. Then dozens. A convoy of matte black SUVs skidded to a halt, surrounding Chloe's van from every direction with military precision. Airport security instinctively backed away. Every person who knew anything about New York's underworld felt the blood drain from their faces. That crest. The silver crown wrapped around a black serpent. The King family's emblem. The bodyguards gripping my arm stiffened. A man in a tailored black suit stepped out of the lead vehicle. His expression was calm. His eyes were terrifying. The moment he saw me on the ground, his face changed completely. Young miss. His voice trembled. We finally found you. The world fell silent. Chloe frowned. Who are you? The man didn't even glance at her. Instead, he hurried over before dropping to one knee in front of me. Every other suited man behind him followed. More than 50 people. All kneeling. Young Mississippi. We're late. We deserve death. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Chloe's smile froze. Ethan stared blankly. One of the kneeling men carefully wrapped a coat around my shoulders before helping me stand. The leader turned, his warm expression instantly becoming ice. Who touched Miss Serafina? I slowly lifted my finger. Her. Every gun came out at once. Click. 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 Over 50 pistols pointed directly at Chloe and her bodyguards. The airport exploded into screams. Chloe's face turned white. How dare you? Do you know who I am? My father is. I know exactly who you are. The man interrupted coldly. An adopted daughter. And she. He looked at me with eyes full of emotion. Is the only biological daughter of Mr. and Mrs. King. Boom. It felt like the entire airport had exploded. Ethan's knees nearly gave out. What? Chloe laughed nervously. Are you insane? I'm their daughter. I've been their daughter for 18 years. The man slowly pulled a velvet box from inside his suit. Inside was a tiny platinum bracelet. Worn with age. Engraved with one sentence. Forever protecting our little princess. Dad, Mom, Julian. The bracelet my parents had given me on my 5th birthday. The bracelet I'd lost during the kidnapping. Tears filled my eyes. I never thought I'd see it again. The captain bowed his head. Master has kept it beside his bed for 20 years. He ordered every branch of the organization. That if anyone could identify this bracelet, they were to be brought home at any cost. Chloe's confident expression finally cracked. And no. That's impossible. The captain ignored her. He respectfully handed me a satellite phone. It is Master. My hand shook as I answered. Dad? Silence. Only breathing. Heavy breathing. Then. A rough voice that had frightened countless Mafia families broke completely. Fina? My lips trembled. It's me. A crash echoed through the speaker. Someone had knocked over a chair. Then another voice. My mother. Sobbing uncontrollably. Serafina? My baby. My baby is alive? I could no longer hold back my tears. I'm sorry. I got lost. On the other end of the line came the sound of a grown man crying without restraint. You don't apologize. Dad was the one who failed to find you. You come home. Everything else. Dad will handle. He hung up. The captain immediately spoke into his earpiece. Code Phoenix. Young Miss confirmed. Bring the family home. Every suited man straightened. As ordered. Just then, another convoy rushed into the airport. This one carried the king's family crest recognized by every New York billionaire. The doors flew open. Julian jumped out before the car had fully stopped. He had clearly come straight from the family memorial. His black suit was still decorated with the white flower he always wore for Serafina's Memorial Day. His eyes landed on me. Then on the bracelet in my hand. Then on my face. He stopped breathing. No. He whispered. No. His gaze slowly drifted downward. There, just beneath my collarbone, half hidden by the hospital gown, was the tiny crescent-shaped birthmark only his little sister had. The same birthmark he'd kissed goodbye 20 years ago before she left for kindergarten. His pupils shook violently. The world around him disappeared. His lips moved soundlessly. Fina? I looked at him. This time, I didn't call him. I simply let the tears answer for me. Julian stumbled backward as though someone had shot him in the chest. His face turned deathly pale. Then he looked toward Chloe. Looked at Ethan. Looked at the bruises covering my body. Looked at the fresh scars from surgery barely hidden beneath my clothes. Finally, he understood. Every single thing they had done. To his little sister. The sister he'd spent 20 years mourning. His knees hit the pavement with a sickening thud. In front of everyone. The genius heir of the King family knelt before me. He broke down completely. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Behind him, Chloe's face drained of every last trace of color. For the first time since entering the King family, she realized exactly whose place she had been standing in all these years. And how badly she had just destroyed her own future. Chloe's legs gave out. She collapsed onto the pavement, shaking her head over and over. No. No, this has to be some kind of mistake. She pointed at me with trembling fingers. She's lying. I've been the King family's daughter for 18 years. I've celebrated every birthday with Mom and Dad. I've gone to every charity gala. I've visited Serafina's grave every year. Julian slowly stood. His face was streaked with tears. Gone was the gentle brother who indulged Chloe's every whim. In his place stood the future head of the King family. His eyes were frighteningly cold. Enough. Just those two words made Chloe instinctively take a step back. Julian. You believe me, don't you? I've been your little princess for 18 years. Julian looked at her for a long time. I treated you like family because I believed fate had sent you to ease our grief. You were never meant to replace Serafina. His voice became even colder. But you. He glanced at the bruises on my arms. Laid hands on my sister. And nearly killed her. Chloe's lips trembled. I didn't know. I didn't know she was Serafina. Julian laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was filled with disappointment. So if she had been an ordinary woman, everything you did would have been acceptable? Chloe froze. She couldn't answer. Because the answer was yes. Julian had watched her bully people for years. He had always believed she was merely spoiled. Today he finally understood. This wasn't childishness. It was cruelty. Meanwhile Ethan suddenly rushed toward me. Mia. No. He corrected himself. Serafina. His face was deathly pale. I didn't know. If I'd known who you were. I looked at him calmly. If you'd known. You would have stayed with me? Ethan nodded frantically. Of course. We were together for 7 years. I loved you. You know I loved you. A sharp slap echoed across the airport. Everyone stared. I had slapped him. Hard. He stood there in disbelief, his cheek instantly swelling. You loved me? I laughed quietly. When I lost our baby. You told the nurse you only helped me out of pity. When Chloe beat me. You watched. When she ran me over. You defended her. You abandoned the woman carrying your child because you wanted money. I took one step closer. So don't insult the word love. Ethan's face turned ashen. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. At that moment, another convoy entered the airport. Unlike the earlier one, this one wasn't orderly. The lead car practically drifted to a stop. Before the door had fully opened, a tall middle-aged man ran out. His expensive suit was wrinkled. His hair was a mess. He looked nothing like New York's most feared mafia boss. He looked like a father who had been searching for his child for 20 years. Fina. His voice cracked. I turned. For a moment, neither of us moved. The terrifying man countless enemies feared had red eyes and trembling hands. As if he were afraid I would disappear if he blinked. Dad. That single word shattered the last of his composure. He crossed the distance in seconds and pulled me into his arms with unbelievable care. I'm here. Dad's here. No one will ever hurt you again. He held me so gently, as though I were still the 5-year-old girl he'd lost. A graceful woman stepped out of the next car. The moment she saw me, she burst into tears. My baby. She didn't even make it halfway before her legs gave out. I immediately left Dad's embrace and caught her. Mom. She cupped my face with both hands. Her fingers traced every scar. Every bruise. Every healed wound. She cried harder with each one she found. Who? Who did this to my daughter? No one answered. They didn't have to. Her gaze slowly shifted to Chloe. Then to Ethan. Then to Julian. Finally, it landed on the hospital records one of the bodyguards had already retrieved from Boston. She opened the file. Inside were photographs. Broken ribs. Internal bleeding. The miscarriage. Her hands began to shake violently. She closed the folder. When she spoke again, her voice was frighteningly calm. Julian. Yes, Mom. You have 1 week. His expression hardened. I understand. Chloe suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. 1 week for what? Neither mother nor son answered. But everyone in New York knew what it meant when the King family gave someone a deadline. It wasn't mercy. It was the amount of time they needed to decide exactly how completely they intended to ruin you. Across the airport, Ethan slowly collapsed to his knees. Only now did he realize the truth. He hadn't just thrown away the woman who loved him. He had thrown away the daughter of the most powerful family in New York. And worse. He had abandoned the only person who had ever loved him before she had anything to offer. By the time he understood that, it was far too late. 1 week later, New York woke up to chaos. Not violence. Not blood. Something far worse for people like Chloe and Ethan. Everything they had built began disappearing. The King family never needed guns when money and influence worked faster. First came the board meetings. Every company in which Chloe's adoptive father held shares suddenly received anonymous evidence of financial misconduct committed by executives loyal to him. Regulators opened investigations. Investors fled. Banks froze new lines of credit. Within 48 hours, billions in market value had evaporated. Then came the charity foundations. Every gala invitation addressed to Chloe was quietly withdrawn. Every magazine that had once called her New York's princess published corrections. Chloe King is the adopted daughter of the King family. The title she had relied on for 18 years vanished overnight. Socialites who used to compete for her attention suddenly crossed the street to avoid her. Luxury boutiques politely informed her that her accounts had been closed. Country clubs revoked her membership. The penthouse she loved belonged to the King family. She was given one suitcase. Nothing else. Meanwhile, Julian personally emptied her bedroom. Every photograph that showed Chloe standing where Serafina should have been was carefully packed away. Not destroyed. Simply removed. As though those 18 years had never happened. Ethan believed he could still save himself. He begged Chloe for help. She ignored every call. He begged his company. The CEO sighed. We just lost every King contract. We have no use for you anymore. He was fired before lunchtime. He tried applying elsewhere. Every interview ended the same way. We'll contact you. No one ever did. His apartment lease was terminated. His luxury car was repossessed. Within 2 months, he was selling his expensive watches just to pay rent. One rainy evening, he stood outside the tiny apartment where Serafina and he had once dreamed about buying a home together. He remembered her smiling as she showed him baby clothes on her phone. He remembered brushing it off. He remembered the ultrasound hidden in her drawer. He slid down the wall and cried. Not because he had lost wealth. Because he finally understood he had thrown away a family. One that could never be replaced. Chloe's punishment was different. She wasn't imprisoned. She wasn't exiled. She was forced to live as herself. For the first time in 18 years. Every luxury she enjoyed had belonged to the King family. Without it, she had almost nothing. She tried contacting friends. They were suddenly busy. She tried shopping. Her cards were declined. She tried entering a charity gala. Security politely blocked the entrance. I'm sorry, Mississippi. You're not on the guest list. She screamed. I used to be the guest of honor. The guard simply replied. Used to be. The doors closed. She stood outside in the rain while photographers captured every second. The next morning, the headline spread across New York. The fallen princess. Julian never forgave himself. He moved back into the family estate but refused to enter Serafina's restored childhood bedroom unless she invited him. One evening, he placed a small wooden box before her. Inside were hundreds of letters. I wrote one every year. His voice was barely audible. On your birthday. I didn't know if you were alive. So. I wrote them anyway. I hoped that someday. You'd come home and read them. Serafina opened the first letter. The handwriting belonged to a 10-year-old boy. Dear Fina. I beat your favorite game today. Dad says you'd laugh because I still cheated. Come home soon. She quietly closed the box. Then, for the first time in 20 years, she hugged her brother. Julian broke down again. I'm sorry. I know. She rested her head against his shoulder. You failed me once. But don't fail me for the rest of our lives. He nodded, unable to speak. Months later, the King family held a banquet unlike any New York had ever seen. Every influential family attended. At the center of the ballroom stood Serafina. Her father raised a glass. My daughter was stolen from us 20 years ago. Today, she comes home. Thunderous applause echoed through the hall. Across the street, hidden behind a crowd, Ethan watched silently. Chloe stood several feet away. Neither dared enter. Neither had an invitation. They could only watch the life they had destroyed become more brilliant than ever without them. Ethan whispered, almost to himself. If I had chosen her. Chloe laughed bitterly. If I had simply been kind. Neither sentence had an ending. Because there was no changing the past. Inside the ballroom, Serafina laughed with her parents and Julian for the first time since she was 5 years old. The King family was whole again. Outside, the two people who had tried to destroy her were left with nothing but regret, a punishment no amount of money or power could erase. 3 years later. The King estate, once filled with silence and mourning, had become noisy again. Servants smiled as they hurried through the halls. Fresh flowers decorated every room. Laughter echoed from the gardens. The mansion finally felt like a home instead of a memorial. Serafina sat on the back terrace, sipping tea with her mother. Her scars had faded. So had the nightmares. Some wounds never disappeared completely. But they no longer controlled her life. Her mother reached over and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I still catch myself checking your room every morning. Serafina smiled. And? Her mother laughed through misty eyes. You're always there. I still can't believe it. Across the lawn, her father was loudly arguing with Julian. You've spoiled your sister too much. Julian looked completely offended. I learned from you. I've seen you buy her 3 sports cars this month. They're different colors. So? So she can only drive one at a time. Serafina burst into laughter. Her father immediately abandoned the argument and walked over. My princess laughed. Did you hear that? He looked at every servant nearby. My daughter laughed. Everyone nodded with practiced smiles. Yes, master. We heard. Julian rolled his eyes. He's been like this every day for 3 years. I know. And somehow it's getting worse. Her father proudly crossed his arms. I lost 20 years. I'm making up for them. No one argued with that. Serafina eventually accepted a position overseeing the King family's charitable foundation. Not because she wanted publicity. Because she remembered exactly what it felt like to be forgotten. She built shelters for children leaving foster care. Scholarship programs. Medical funds for families who couldn't afford treatment. Every project carried one simple rule. No child should ever believe they're alone. When reporters asked why she spent so much of the family's fortune helping strangers, she simply smiled. Because someone once helped me survive. Julian kept one promise. Every Friday evening was siblings' night. No meetings. No business. No excuses. Sometimes they played old video games. Sometimes they watched terrible movies. Sometimes they simply sat on the roof eating pizza like they would have if she'd never been kidnapped. One night Julian quietly asked. Do you still hate me? Serafina looked at him. I hated what happened. I never stopped loving my brother. Julian's eyes turned red again. She sighed. You're crying again. I know. You cry too much. I'm making up for 20 years. She laughed. There it is again. What? The excuse. It works. It really does. She leaned over and hugged him. This time, neither of them cried from grief. Only relief. On the 20th anniversary of her disappearance, the family visited the cemetery. Not to mourn. To remove the memorial stone. Her father rested a hand on it. You don't belong here anymore. Workers carefully lifted it away. In its place, they planted a cherry blossom tree. Her mother smiled. Something living suits you much better. Pink petals drifted through the air. Serafina closed her eyes and let the breeze brush across her face. It felt like saying goodbye to the saddest chapter of her life. Forever. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Julian raised a glass. To our family. Her father added. To second chances. Her mother smiled. To coming home. They all looked at Serafina. She stood and lifted her own glass. When I was little, I thought family meant never being separated. She glanced around the table. I was wrong. Family is finding each other again. It's choosing each other again. No matter how much time has passed. Her father quietly wiped away a tear. Julian pretended not to notice. Her mother reached across the table and squeezed her hand. The room filled with warm laughter. Outside, the lights of New York shimmered in the distance. The city that had once been the place where she lost everything had become the place where she found it all again. For the first time since she was 5 years old, Serafina King wasn't thinking about revenge, loss, or regret. She was simply thinking about what to wear for tomorrow's family breakfast. It was an ordinary thought. And after everything she had survived, an ordinary, peaceful life with the people who loved her was the happiest ending she could have wished for.